vintage is gonna continue to grow. You're gonna continue to see it on more people, but not only that, you're gonna continue to see people reworking vintage and
Right.
making new stuff out of the old, and that's something that I want to do too.
So we hope you enjoy listening to this podcast half as much as we enjoy making it for you. Because we had a ball. Only real content is gonna last. All that other nonsense is here today and gone tomorrow.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Navigating Now. And today we are happy to welcome Hector Quintanilla to our episode. Hector, thank you for joining us, bro.
Thank you for having me.
For sure, man. And so can we just start off by you giving just a short description of who you are, a little bit about where you're from, just to start off?
For sure. Well, as you said, my name's Hector Quintanilla. I was born in Monterrey, Mexico, and I currently run the Archive Dreams page. And yeah, I'm owner and founder of Archive Dreams.
Cool, man. So one thing that we love to do on the show is give people an opportunity to tell their story. And so you being from Mexico, obviously you don't live in Mexico anymore. Could you just take us back to those childhood days and just explain a little bit more of your story and your journey?
For sure. So I think like in Mexico, I wasn't, well, the culture isn't really focused or surrounding fashion a lot. Like people aren't into it.
Right.
If anything, fashion there is more only of like a social status thing. So I wasn't attracted to it when I was young, because that's not what attracts me to fashion. But I did. There was like certain experiences when I was young that like helped shape my appreciation for, I guess, the arts. Um, my grandfather was an architect and he collected a lot of art, but there was like a certain lifestyle or aesthetic around like his whole life that like it was everywhere. Like even his furniture was different. I mean now, as I am older and like now it like clicks. It's like, oh, well, this furniture was from Knoll. But you know, when I was little, I I was like, this furniture just looks funky to me. But now, like I think that shaped my appreciation for, I guess, all of the arts. Because I guess now I view fashion as like uh, one form of art, but there's many mediums where you can have art. Like,
Absolutely.
think of architecture as art, music,
Absolutely.
etc.
Yeah, facts. We're all about the different mediums. When did you move from Mexico? Like how long did you live
So basically, my childhood, I moved
there?
uh, here to the U.S. when I was 10 years old.
Okay.
So yeah, I've lived most of my life here. Um, yeah, like
Right.
my childhood, I grew up
Right.
there.
And here is New York, correct?
No, I currently am based out of Houston.
Oh yeah.
I do plan on moving to New York in the near
Facts.
future because that's the mecca right there,
That's where it's
and
at.
that's where I see myself. But um, for now, I'm based out of Houston. Yeah.
Awesome. So go ahead, Jay.
I kind of wanted to ask like what your mindset was transitioning, like when you first moved from Mexico and kind of assimilating into American culture, like from the time that you were 10, that would be what, like elementary school, beginning of middle school,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Like how is that time for you? And like transitioning into like high school and like your interest now.
Yeah. So I guess the transition to when I first moved here, like, yeah, it was a big difference, but it wasn't that hard. Because like I already spoke English, so it was basically just moving to a new school.
Right.
And well, yeah, now everyone spoke English. It used to be like we only spoke English in class, but I feel like, yeah, it was a change that shaped me, but I think there was like, I don't know, middle school was probably harder,
It's
I
middle
don't know,
school.
than elementary.
Yeah,
But,
for sure.
yeah.
Them hormones, bro. Them hormones.
Yeah.
Everybody's struggles has a little bit of rough patch. Although 8th grade was that year. Don't forget 8th grade was that year.
8th grade was
Yeah.
fire, but I swear I had more work to do in 7th grade than college.
Swear.
Day to day.
On
Like
God.
what?
Like in class or like through personal growth?
Just
Both, like
even to
homework.
school.
Just
Yeah.
from school, I mean, yeah, because like I think about it like back then, Monday through Friday, like 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then homework, bro. Like
Yeah.
math homework every day was taking like an hour.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
that's
Like
true.
we didn't have to do none of that once we got older.
Right.
It felt like it got easier actually because I just had more control of my time.
No, that's definitely true. I used to not do that. Well, like I used to be like 2 years ahead in math, and then I fell back 1 year just because I wasn't doing my math homework. I was like, I don't want to do this.
Bro, that it's them homework points. But
Yeah.
when did or I was gonna say, was it like a big cultural shift? Like, do you remember like looking forward to coming to America? Like, did you not want to leave Mexico? Do you remember that? How you felt at that
Well,
time?
back then I was like, I guess so little I didn't truly comprehend it. Now I see it more like the cultural shift. Back then, I thought I was like moving here to live 1 year, maybe two, and then
Right.
move back to Mexico. So I, I was living here thinking, oh yeah, I'm like gonna go back. Like it's okay. It's only temporary. Um, I think that's one of the things that like kind of helped me get through it. But I think it also um, opened my or view to like, yeah, the different cultures are completely different, and there's a lot of things you do here that you don't do there, and things you do there that you don't do
Right.
here. But I think after a while, I was able to comprehend like, as much as I love Mexico, there's a lot more opportunity here, and like that's why I see myself moving to New York and not moving back to Mexico. Just because I mean it's the American dream. Like the opportunity is very good here.
Yeah, it's facts.
So now I'm gonna kind of transition into what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Archive Dreams has over 150,000 followers on Instagram. It's a dope history of a whole bunch of different designers and creativity in a bunch of different mediums. And I want to kind of segue from your life, and at what point did the history of clothes and design start to become appealing to you? Did you start to educate yourself about it?
Yeah. So I would say right around high school, I started to like actually care like about, well, obviously I feel like most people start like caring about their shoes, and like that's like the starting point. But I feel like I started putting much more attention into my clothes more than my shoes. I tend to nowadays just go with very simple shoes, not very flashy. I mean, you see some new releases are like super flashy and they'll resell for a lot of money, but I tend to invest more money in clothes just because I not only see, I don't know, more, not only more versatility in that, but like shoes are worn on your feet, they like go on the ground and they get beat up, and then that's it. Like they it's like a depreciating asset, I guess. If you're able to pick your clothes right, they'll hold their value, or go higher even, if you're smart about it. But
That's
I
a
guess
great way
that goes
to think about it.
That goes with educating yourself, like what clothes hold their value, and I mean, put it out there. Basically, vintage for the most part holds its value very well. For what you buy it, you can probably sell it for.
Right. So did it actually start off as like you really got into like higher fashion clothes just because like you got into just like higher, like wanting clothes that held value longer, or did you like just the designers and like just the art of design, or was it a little bit of both?
Oh yeah, no, it was the art of design. I feel like that thought process of like thinking of the value of clothes is more me now. Now that like I have an online store, but back then I was just, I don't know, trying to dress more clean. It wasn't really about how much something was going to be worth in the future, but I also, started to educate myself like about, like fast fashion isn't good. So I started like actually investing my money into better clothes, and that's when I realized, oh, these clothes are actually worth something. Now that after I've worn them, were normally something like when people think of clothes, they don't think like that, I guess. They just think like, oh, I'm gonna buy this and keep it forever, or end up giving it to Goodwill one day. I don't know.
Like, so can you speak a little bit on how that passion of clothes and everything transitioned into you creating Archive Dreams and it becoming an effective online store?
Yeah. So it was actually 3 years ago in Christmas break. So it's December now. So basically it was December 3 years ago that I started the page, and it was really like I was just started posting stuff I liked, and it was at the start I was posting my grails, because I was like, I can't afford this, but I appreciate it so much. I'm just gonna like, uh, I would spend hours just like surfing the internet looking at pieces, um, and then just like saving the images to my phone, um, to later post them. And at this time I was like, um, starting to see different archive pages, that would post cool shit, um, but most of the time they wouldn't identify what the picture was. I guess like they would
Right.
post it
Right.
just as a mood board, no caption, and
Right.
that really bugged me because I wanted to like educate myself on this stuff and find more about it, but there really was no way because it was just like the picture. So as soon as I started doing it, I knew I wanted to like, um, change that when I was doing it, in the sense that like I actually wanted to like not gatekeep, like put the information out there so that if someone was curious enough to like actually like want to Google it, they could.
Right.
Yeah. And create like a little bit of a Wikipedia almost of
Yeah,
vintage fashion.
exactly. Yeah, that was the idea.
So that was originally how it started off. Like, at what point did you make the store after you started the page?
Yeah. So the store, I launched it like COVID. Um, when COVID hit, I decided just to like, I was like, the page had grown enough that I wanted to
What was the base at
like
that point?
the base.
Well, yeah, like you
Oh,
said, it
the
had grown to a
followers.
certain point. Yeah, like what was that point that you felt like the
Uh,
transition was a good time?
it was a couple thousand. I don't remember the exact number, but I I just remember being like, okay, I want to like,
Make it more than an Instagram page. I wanted to like grow it in a sense where it was like not just the mood board. Um, and I saw myself thinking, um, a way I can do that is to start selling clothes because I had always sold through like Grailed or whatsoever, like online, and I I didn't like the fees, and I realized I could evade those fees by starting my own. And I knew like at the moment, um I might have not had um the I don't know, the clothes to sell, so I just started selling my closet, um which was my collection. But I knew that by starting this platform it was going to give me the ability to later sell different pieces that you know weren't well, might not be mine, but also I could give this platform to different designers if I wanted to,
Right.
and um, I that's kind of the vision I wanted to when I created it is um, I wanted to have this platform where I could sell my clothes, but also um, I thought of it as a store where I could carry different brands in the future.
Got you.
Yeah. So I did just that. And I have sold a couple of pieces that kind of regret, but that's okay. It I sell and buy. So it's
Right.
it, what when I decided to start the store, I knew I decided I wanted to have a um, rotating closet and always evolving, and it was also a way for me to have the ability to experience more pieces um,
Mm.
at at a higher price tag um, that I normally couldn't if I you know wasn't making income.
Yeah, if you're only doing it for yourself, right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Um, so, and I also like the idea of giving, pieces a new home because now the pieces I sell, they might not all be like my size. Um, they're, you know, vintage pieces I find or like stuff I source that I feel can have a new home and, you know, whoever buys it is giving it a new home. So I really like that idea
Right.
that you know clothes are actually being used.
Right. So speaking a little bit more on the store, like you said, you started it when there's a couple thousand followers or over 150K now.
Hmm.
Like, what do you think was key in creating the community to scale like in that way?
Um, how I scaled the community, I guess. Is that the
Mm-hmm.
question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, honestly, it was just the consistency. Um, I posted that like I've been posting every single day, several times a day for 3 years. Um, and if like I guarantee you, if you did that too, and you were putting good content out there, you would also be, you know, at that type of numbers. Like
Right.
I think like it helped me scale like to after getting a sense of what people liked, like what people wanted to see. Um, so I guess I did get that sense after like I guess just trial and error, just posting and posting nonstop. Um, but I guess that's how it's grown to yeah, it's
Right. And like,
yeah.
what do you think was like through all of your like trial and error and like posting every day, and like you said, you kind of got a better gauge on what people were looking for. Like, what do you like? Are you willing to kind of like share a little bit into like what you kind of found out, or what you found to be like that catalyst thing that like, oh, once I started doing this consistently, like, boom, like it happened.
Um, yeah, I guess people always ask me like what was the one post that made it explode and whatever and made it got it to where it was. And I like yes, there is posts that perform very well,
Mm,
but there wasn't a single post that caused it to like gain thousands of followers. It was
right.
again gradual. Um, and I guess it was just like putting in that work of just every
Right.
single day. But I do think I guess, a catalyst was able to like, find that niche. Um, like if you're able to find your niche, um, you're able to like just market to the whatever that niche is and
Right.
post what they like, and then that's what's gonna perform the best. If you're posting
Right.
what your niche likes, and it's just figuring out what your niche is. Like once I figured that out, I guess it did um, did scale and it did grow faster. But I also think it's social media. It's uh what's that curve called? Like exponential growth.
Yeah.
Exponential curve. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely grows with momentum.
Exactly.
Definitely a momentum based thing. Yeah.
So on the like while it was growing, there's some pretty notable people that follow the page. Like, what was your reaction like when you were starting to see some of these come in? Like when it's like, oh, like Ronnie Feig follows me. Like,
Yeah.
how does that experience like live for
Yeah.
you?
It was always like crazy. Like I always get goosebumps thinking about it. Like I don't know. One of my biggest flexes is that like Michelle Lammy, Rick Owens' wife, follows the page. Uh, and I'm like seeing that those people like follow. It really like I don't know if it like gives me the confidence, but like it assures me that like I'm doing something right, like I'm hitting the right
Right.
niche because it's
Right.
what I like, and to see that these people that are already like high up there in the industry um are supporting and following, um
Right.
it feels amazing, honestly. um but yeah, it's crazy every time that I find a new one that's like notable. I do freak out. There,
As you should.
yeah.
As
You
you
got
should.
any shout outs? Anybody that's following you right now, you want to shout out like, yo, I really like you or love your work, want to work with you, it'd be cool if we did a collab or anything?
I mean, sure. Like, there's a lot that I really like. I really like the work of Craig Green. Um, I like, well, Virgil followed. It's very sad what happened. Rest in peace, Virgil.
Rest in
But
peace.
yeah, he was one of the followers, and I was like, damn. But it really showed the type of person he was. Like he supported. It's like everyone wins. He
Right.
supported everyone, and he saw like what I was doing. He just hit that follow. Um, who else? There's Helmut Lang. Helmut Lang, I think, is crazy.
That's the
Um,
one.
yeah, I mean, now that he's an artist, it would be crazy to like someday collaborate with him because I don't know if he would want to like go back into fashion, but maybe as a one-off thing, and I would even be open to like some art collaboration, but that
We'll have to tag him, bro. We'll have to tag him on this.
would um who else follows? There there's a good idea. Kanye used to follow, then he hit me with the unfollow.
Hit you with that ghost.
Yeah. Um, but yeah. Um, oh, like there's certain like stylists like Matthew Henson, which is ASAP Rocky's stylist. I really like his styling work. Like Kerwin Frost, I really like what he's doing. Like especially with Adidas.
Okay.
Like I think it's amazing to see like him being like his true self and like you know making a living off of that, just being his true self. And like as a creative, I think that's amazing. um yeah, like Jeff Staple, really, I wasn't expecting this one, but Macklemore follows. But after I looked into it, he started his own brand recently, so I guess it makes some sort of sense because uh, I feel like a lot of people do take inspiration from archive dreams because I mean uh, I post a lot of old clothes and that's that's where people get inspired for new clothes um,
Right.
and I feel like that's the best way, I guess. I mean, sure, there is like this whole conversation about being original, but if you're able to take something old and make it better and make it new, I think that's good design. Um, people can argue about that though. There's people like, oh, well, it's a copy. Well, yeah, or it's a reference, whatever,
Right.
however you want to look at it.
Right. It's like sampling in music. Like people get
Exactly.
mad, but it's like you can't make more things without inspiring yourself through old work. So like I think it's beautiful. I
Yeah,
think.
I agree.
Thanks. And all those designers and everybody you named are people that follow Archive Dreams and maybe you want to collab with. But who are some of your favorite designers and artists in general?
Ooh. Okay. Favorite designer I said like top Martin Margiela. Um, I think yeah. I really wanted to see more of the stuff he does like as an artist. I think it's very interesting um for him to like do stuff in different mediums. Um,
Mhm.
because I mean his fashion was like super conceptual. So like his studio art is also going to be conceptual, obviously. Um,
Right.
but you know, breaking that down, you have to really look into it. Um, so I'm excited to see what else he does as that, and it's interesting to see him taking like the same route as Helmut Lang, which Helmut Lang is another uh, the favorites. Um, I really like Braff too. His work very good, but um, um, what else? I guess there's a lot of designers that like I love their work, but it's also like uh, to view it. I guess
Right.
there's some stuff like I could appreciate so much and not wear. Um,
Right. From like all of those inspirations, is there like a common thread that you see between all of those inspirations that kind of points out your taste in particular?
can you repeat the question?
Like is like between like Martin Margiela, Helmut Lang, like is there something like do you see like something common between your favorite designers that kind of informs what you most like in design that might even transfer to some of the work that you do?
Yeah. Um, well, I think their their body of work is different. Um, I do think like for example, there is uh, some inspiration uh, from like say Helmut Lang into Raph's work.
Mm,
It's not like super notable, but it's like Raph was very inspired by both Helmut and Margiela, and that like makes sense why I like Raph's work. Um, but I think Margiela, I'm super I love the concepts of it. I think he changed fashion into like opening these doors of possibility um, to everything that's reworked. Uh, you didn't really see that before his work, is where you took old garments and made new garments. Like straight there, you have to like destroy the old in order to make the new. Um, I I really love his artisanal work too. Um, but then you see, uh, Helmet is more, you know, military inspired, and military references of old garments. But you see, I guess, the parallel is this uh, inspiration from old clothes, I guess. I mean, I would, in my work, I'm of course going to take inspiration from old clothes because that's what I know. Like, even if you're not directly taking from a reference, there's like everything you've seen before is,
Right. Informing what you do.
yeah, informing
Yeah.
what you design in the future.
Facts. Facts.
Do you have any favorite pieces in particular?
Um, yeah, my Margiela artisanal leather jacket, made from three World War II.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
It's like,
remember seeing that one at the
yeah,
pop-up. Facts.
yeah, that one's crazy. But uh, favorite pieces, I guess, from there's a lot of like, I guess, favorites that I don't own. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
Raph Grails. I really love like his work with graphics. There's a lot of like um, there's like this one purple sweatshirt with this front graphic on it, all I don't know, Virginia Creeper stuff that's like coming apart. I I guess I also love how old, like how clothes age. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's why I like that collection a lot. But they're I feel like when people ask me like what are your favorite pieces, it's almost like I go into like there's so many like to
Right.
name.
Right.
I can't pick. That's why I spend my time just posting all of them.
Right.
Um, I can guarantee you, like, um, any one piece that I would name, I've already posted it, um, or I will.
Right.
So
Right.
definitely, um, there's a lot of grails, a lot of helmet grails too. I just want everything. I look at stuff online. And I just want it all.
Like, go have a big library when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
What would you say is like what's your like most frequented website other than like your own stuff?
Well, I don't shop on my own website, but I mean, I do go on it, I guess.
Right.
Um, um, frequent website. I mean, people ask me like, where do you buy the clothes? It's like everywhere you can find them.
Right.
I
Right.
I'm looking. There's like I'll go on eBay. I'll go on
Facts.
Grailed. Um, there's like Yahoo auctions. everywhere. Like sometimes you
It's
even
always
find
on the
steel
hunt.
on like Etsy or like websites that
Right.
I don't normally shop at, but like I sometimes if I'm looking for a specific piece or a specific collection, I just look for it on Google, because it'll show you, um,
Hmm.
if it is in different websites, that you know I might have not thought to look at.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but yeah, it's really about just hunting down the pieces and finding good steel.
The
Right.
next question though is like, once you hunt down that piece, where do you hunt down all the information about it?
Oh
Right.
Because
yeah,
yeah, like you create you. I want to make it like very well known. Like you're making a archive, like a whole library, Wikipedia of fashion. And like as time goes on, whatever is dropped today will become archives and become vintage. So like how do you see value in like providing that library of knowledge to the culture?
well, I want to make that knowledge more accessible, especially the person who buys it. Um, I think a piece of clothing is worth more with that knowledge attached to it. I mean, uh, there's
Absolutely.
like when you think of like vintage clothes, um, whether it not be archive or whatever, there is a lot of knowledge or information you can gauge from just like I guess like the tag on it, um, and that knowledge can like simply just go away, disappear if like that tag is ripped away, or cut off. Um, so well, obviously you have to hunt down the knowledge of what that tag means from what era it's from or whatever. But you know, I love doing that type of stuff. So I go and do it on my free time, and if it's time to sell the piece and I post it on my website, I make sure to like write up, you know, what I know about the piece so that knowledge can continue to go with the
To
next
the
owner.
next
Yeah,
generation. Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
And you know that whatever I wrote up stays on my website. So um because for example, when it comes to archive helmet pieces or um like whatever archive, uh I I do like go up and look at old listings of this stuff to gauge more knowledge about it. Um, because it, I guess, it has sold in the past and it's on the internet. People don't look at these listings because it's sold out, but there's sometimes, um, it most of the times it's collectors that sell this stuff, so they know about this stuff. So they put the information out there, and I want to do the same. Um, you know, so it's easier for people to find the knowledge and you know educate themselves about the piece,
Right.
whether they own it or not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And having all that knowledge, like you said, adds a lot of value for the owner, like having each
Yeah,
piece.
I
Can
think
you
I think
speak? Oh, go
personally,
ahead.
yeah, I think personally, like when I know more about a piece, I tend to like it more. Uh, like when there's pieces that like might look cool or whatever, but if I don't know anything about it, it just there's I don't know. It might be just me, but I feel like if you're able to know know more about the history uh of something, then it goes up in value. I guess that's why some Levi's can go for a lot of money when they're really old, uh, because the history is out there. It's been written, and if you want to find out about it, you can. You just have to go look for that knowledge.
It's like you can buy a piece of art or a piece of design, but you're also buying like an
It is,
emotion
yeah, an
and
emotion.
like a feeling. And that's like really the thing, and a story, like you're buying a story.
Yeah,
And that like is kind of, you can put any price on it. There isn't really, it's
Right.
arbitrary to
Good
however
stories are
you value it
priceless.
personally. Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it's worth differently to each person, but that's why, like, a lot of these like vintage collectors, they won't sell their stuff because it's just worth so much personally. Like it
Right.
has
Right.
an emotional connection um to them,
Facts.
because it is a certain piece of history and a story to it attached.
So speaking more on the value of the clothes, right? Once you get a cool new designer piece and you want to add it to the store, you have to obviously think about how it's gonna be priced. And
Yeah,
you can be informed on like what it's sold on in the past or whatever else, but obviously we're thinking about the whole story and everything, the limited quantity.
yeah.
So what goes into what gives the pieces their value to you? How do you come up with that?
So I really tend to just go on how much the piece has sold for in the past, and if I cannot find that piece for what it sold in the past, I guess I tend to go for with like compare it to pieces either from the same designer or collection, trying to get as close as possible um, to that piece, and
Yeah.
and try to find what it sold for, put it up at a reasonable price. It When it comes to like more vintage stuff, it's you most probably won't find the piece online, but you can find a similar piece to it from the same era. So that's why I think you know finding the era of the piece is important, um, to even pricing it, like not only to its history, but what it's worth.
Right.
Thanks. So now I kind of want to talk about vintage, just in general. Vintage, I feel like has become like the wave, like it's like the vibe everybody is on in fashion.
Yeah.
Like what what do you think drives that community, and like why people are inclined to kind of like look back on fashion right now?
Yeah. Um, I think vintage, I mean, it might be more prominent right now because the vintage community is definitely growing. It's like expanding so fast. Um, but I think that it's going to continue to do so. I think vintage is the future. Um, there's already too many clothes. Like if we stop producing clothes right today, I mean yesterday or whatever, we stop producing clothes, we would still have more clothes than we need for every person that's like born right now and the future generations. Like we don't need to make more clothes. Um,
Right.
a lot of these clothes, you know, people won't wear, but if you curate through it, there is still good pieces that you know I think people are attracted to it not only because vintage is it's an easy entry point. Like it doesn't have to be
Mhm.
expensive. If
Right.
if you're being like you could go to Goodwill and get stuff for $1. Um,
Right.
and so anyone can have it. It's really about like the rarity of the item, like if it and if it fits you. Vintage is good to experiment with your style when it comes to like high fashion, and you want to experiment with your style. You have to spend a lot of money in order to do that, and just to find out that, oh, this piece wasn't my style, you just
Mhm.
that's just lost right there. But with vintage, it tends to hold its value or go up in value. um it doesn't really like go down in value unless you like destroy it, I guess, like make it unwearable. um
Right.
so I think, yeah, vintage is gonna continue to grow. Is gonna You're gonna continue to see it on more people, but not only that, you're gonna continue to see people reworking vintage and
Right.
making new stuff out of the old, and that's something that I want to do too.
Right. So earlier we spoke a little bit on like how you created the community for Archive Dreams. Like, what advice would you have for others that are trying to build a community of their own?
Yeah, um, it really. I feel like I gave some good advice with like being consistent, like
Sure.
posting every day, every single day. Um, that's true with Instagram. Um, that's where I can give the best advice, I feel, but because that's, I guess, where my expertise is at. But with any platform whatsoever, wherever you're trying to um, grow, I think really what it's about when it comes to the internet is you have to, you know, give and give without expecting something back, you know, just for free. Um, you know, good free content or whatever you're trying to give. Uh, give people value. Uh,
Right.
and with that, you're gonna get more back than you ever would have expected
Right.
if you
I think
again keep at it with consistency.
Right. I think an important point that you mentioned the first time around you were given some advice was, or at least one of the things that made you most successful was when you were able to find your niche.
Yeah.
And so, say there's somebody out there that loves fashion but has no clue where to even start with, like, how do I even like experiment? Like, how do I find them? Like, could you just even give some advice on
Yeah,
experimentation?
that's true because I think the word when you think of fashion, like the word fashion is so broad.
Right. So
Um,
broad.
it can mean so many different things. I think I'm focused in a very um, specific niche in fashion,
Hmm.
uh, and yeah, it's about you know finding your niche and then giving uh, you know good giving value to that niche. And if you're able to do that, you will get value back in a different way that you didn't expect.
Right.
So that was kind of advice for building community. What do you think is the future of vintage? And like pieces that are created now will obviously become archives in the future. I think of one brand, I don't know why it's just running in my head, that would probably make a cool vintage brand down the line is Rude.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that would
yeah,
be interesting to see how it ages because it's very inspired on vintage.
Right.
mhm.
Um, it it's interesting to see how I think stuff that like will become like archive like actually considered archive. I think Craig Green is one of the designers that's gonna um, really be one of those that's it's gonna be archive because some of his like older collections are already considered archive, and it's not even like collections that are that old, pretty recent actually, and you don't see that a lot. So
Real quick, for
yeah,
someone who doesn't know what archive means, just
yeah,
like in your like fashion jargon, like could you just like let people know like what, like just to label something archive,
yeah,
like oh yeah,
yeah,
like that would be like,
yeah.
how do you?
I think I define archive as like pieces that are from older collections that
Hmm.
were highly influential and are still like uh, re- uh what's the word, like they like today and age they're still uh
Relevant, like they're
rep
still
yeah,
relevant.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the word. uh so collections that are old but they're highly influential and still relevant today and age, uh that nowadays inspire new designers and new designs, um
Right.
and they're no longer made or produced,
Right.
so they tend to have very high demand but low production,
Right.
or low low amount of pieces in the market because
Right.
they're owned by collectors that most of the time don't want to sell, and so this creates normally very high prices for the pieces,
Right.
and they become very iconic and sought after.
Right.
That's how I would um,
All right. Word.
define archive in my own words, I guess. Some people could define it a little differently, but that's how I think of.
Next, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I was
piggyback
just
off of the definition of archive. Can you give us your definition and thought process behind the name of Archive Dreams,
Yeah.
your
Um,
page?
so when I started the page, there was already starting to be like this wave of what was considered archive pages, uh,
mhm,
where it wasn't really about archive clothes. It was just an archive of images that were just posted on Instagram, and uh, I think you know the archive didn't really come from there. Uh, you know, the Instagram page wasn't called Archive Dreams when I started it.
mm,
That name came later. It was actually like just a story highlight I used to have that I used to post like you know notable people that followed or liked. I would
mm,
screenshot it and post it on my story because I would geek out,
right.
and that story highlight was called Archive Dreams, and then I liked that name. I was like, I
Yeah.
should maybe change the page to Archive Dreams, but I guess the idea behind the name is like it was an archive page about mostly archive clothing. It wasn't,
Right.
so it was that play of two worlds colliding.
Right.
Uh, but also the dreams was just because they were just dreams. They like wasn't really like owning most of the pieces. It was just like, I wish I could have this. I wish I could, um, and it wasn't really like in a materialistic type of way. At least I don't think it was, because I wasn't, you know, out out there really trying to buy most of the stuff that I was uh,
Right.
posting. It was mostly out of like just appreciation
Right.
of the pieces or furniture, art, whatever. Um, so yeah, I guess that's kind of the thought process with archive dreams. I feel like it can mean whatever to the viewer, but yeah,
Right.
that was like my thought process behind it.
Yeah. I like hearing the story, but and I
Yeah,
love the duality of the name Archive Dreams, because it's like such they're like almost the most unique adjectives to say past and future.
hmm yeah, I like that.
Facts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
there's like
yeah,
a
the
real stark.
past does end up inspiring the future.
Mm,
Right, because like to me, it even kind of means like the archived of the archives. So it's like the best of the best, and then just like almost to you is like this was like the dream. Like if I could have all of these, like it'd be fire.
Wow.
So I'll just like
Yeah.
appreciate it, and then just like put other people onto them, and
Yeah.
then that'll just like get my way somewhere
Yeah.
into that door. It's fire.
That's amazing. I like that.
Yeah.
so now you're getting into creating some of your own pieces for
Yeah.
Archive Dreams. That like the sweater that you had at the pop-up, the reversible sweater. I really
Yeah.
love that piece. That's dope to me. Especially like the white side and like on the inside the white and blue. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
What was your inspiration for creating your own pieces? Because you were obviously creating this archive of everyone else's work. What inspired you to make pieces of your own?
Well, ever since even before I started the page, I always had this idea that like I wanted to start like my own brand. Um, but I didn't see it as like viable really. Uh, just knowing like the business side of that, like for the longest time, I just tried to educate myself on the business side of fashion, and it really became clear to me that like, and kind of discouraging, uh, that like, yeah, they're it's really like most brands don't make it, and yours like if you look at the probability, yours like it won't either, you know. Um, that's what I was kind of like getting from my research. So I was discouraged. So I didn't, I just kept the page going without thinking of like, oh yeah, this is going to turn into a brand. Uh, but after a couple of years of doing it, like, it clicked like, yeah, it is possible now. Like I have gained this following now, and I think I can, if I'm able to market to them, um, I think it would be like what it would be amazing. It would be like the dream before even starting the page. Um,
It's
so
the dream part of the archive.
yeah, exactly. Um, so I decided to just go for it. And the inspiration behind the sweater was really just Mother Nature. Like if you look at the back graphic, it's a tree, but if you look closer, it's a woman that's turning into a tree. Um, and you know, like this, I always wanted, like, I don't know. So far for my designs, I've really taken inspiration from nature. If you see like the chair I designed, it was like the idea of, uh, you know, tree roots and what else? You know, there's like organic furniture. I took inspiration from like that. I liked the idea of organic furniture. Uh, so I not only wanted to like take a more sustainable route, but also I don't think I did it on purpose to take inspiration from nature, but I did. Uh, and I do have, you know, more designs that I'm working on that might not take that much inspiration for nature, but there's always the idea of my head that I want to be as sustainable as I can be,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mhm.
you know, as I went through like this journey of like trying to educate myself on this industry, there was a lot of practices that I didn't agree with, and you know that mostly has to do with like fast fashion, but it really um, gave me the idea like most of these clothes are created with no appreciation for them. They're created as like disposable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when back in the day, clothes used to be made so they would last longer than you would, like your body. Um, like
Okay.
if you look at Levi's, like the owners of like some of these vintage Levi's are have been dead for years, and these Levi's are still here intact. And
Right.
now
Yeah.
they have a new owner, and they'll probably last longer than him too. Um, and so I wanted to um, you know, take that route of, because you can't be 100% sustainable with anything. Like there's no such thing as being creating something new and being 100% sustainable, but you can take the steps in the right direction to try to be more sustainable and have more sustainable practices. So um, I always have that in mind, trying to do so and repurposing vintage fabrics. That's what I did for a pañuelo. Um, I released a collection of 9 different pañuelos that were just uh, made from a vintage fabric that I found. And I was just like, wow, this fabric is beautiful. And so I took it to my hometown and had it cut and sewn. And then, you know, just sold them, which actually one was bought by Pusha T's stylist, and
Okay.
he told me that it was for Pusha T, but I haven't seen it on him. Um, hopefully, I will soon.
No, that's
Yeah,
far.
that'd be dope.
Yeah,
Something like that's huge. You repeatedly were saying sustainability, sustainability, sustainability. And what I was thinking about the whole time is like you were speaking of it in the context of sustainability in fashion.
yeah,
Like it's important that we have like a clean green process to create new garments.
hmm,
But all the principles of the word sustainability are so important. It's like it's almost like such an important word, a key gem for life is sustainability.
Okay.
yeah,
It's almost like our daily challenge of like with Archive Dreams or with what we're doing with Different. It's like, how do we create sustainability around what we're doing, around
yeah,
our lifestyle? You know what
yeah.
I mean? How do we create sustainability or like in everything that we do in like life?
I agree.
We think that like, okay, once we find something good, how do we keep it?
Hmm.
And sustainability is a huge theme. that kind of carries beyond just like fashion. But yeah, I just wanted to make that point.
No, I agree, and I think it's it's a good thing to have in mind at all times, um, whether it be like just how you carry yourself or what um, what you consume on a day to day basis.
Right. Your ability to sustain it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I know that you created your own clothes, you created the sweater, you also
Yeah.
created a chair,
Yeah.
right? So I wanted to get your thoughts on designing in different mediums
Yes.
and speak on like the process and skills needed to create in a variety of mediums.
Yeah. So I it's something I really want to do. Like I think the chair is just one of them. Um, I I would like to design in a variety of different mediums. I think of my brand as like not a clothing brand. I think of it as a brand where I'm able to, you know, it's a creative outlet where I can design clothes, but everything else, anything any object you can design if I want to, I want to be able to. And so that's the idea I had in mind when um when I started it was, to create this like platform for me to do that. And um, you mentioned like what you need in order to design in different mediums.
Mhm.
I think, you know, I think obviously uh it varies per medium, like what you are designing, but I don't think
Technical skills.
Is
yeah,
there a common thread? Kind of is the question, right? Like you can kind of choose paint or photography or whatever. I've very much so share the passion that you do of like designing in all mediums.
yeah,
Um, and I feel like the common thread. I'll answer the question for myself first, and you can tell me your
yeah,
thoughts.
yeah,
So, like the thing with design is it is a vision from the creator,
yeah.
and it kind of almost doesn't matter like how like the process to
It's
the
just as
individual
long
that it's the
all you need is the vision.
right.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
so like in
that's
terms of
kind of
trying
what I
to
was gonna answer.
yeah,
Um,
like in trying to create in a bunch of different mediums, the hard skill is the vision
yeah,
almost.
yeah.
Right.
I agree. I agree. I think, people can like be like, "Oh yeah, but if you want to, for example, you said photography, well you need the equipment, the camera, or you need to know how to take pictures." But it's like that's just like the vessel for your vision. Like
Right.
you have a vision of what picture you want to take.
Mm,
Uh
Right.
I think everything else that's in the middle of that, that's like those barriers, um, it's just stuff you can learn. I mean, when I people ask me like, when you design the chair, like, is that something like that you're studying in school or whatever? I was like, no. I woke up one day and I was like, I want to design a chair, and there was this vision, and I just started with paper and a pencil
Mm-hmm.
because that's how I knew to like pass my vision on to a different medium. Um,
Facts.
it really depends the person. Like if you if I would have known like some type of computer program to like put it on the like in a digital form.
Right, maybe we
Done so.
started there. Yeah.
Yeah, but it started with pencil and paper, and I think it's like, it's more of a mental barrier of like I can do it versus I can't, because for the idea of the chair, I had the idea of, well, yeah, hand carving it would be very expensive, uh, but so I also thought, maybe 3D printing it, and
Mhm.
so what I did is I just went to Fiverr and I hired a guy to make a 3D model of it, and I just sent them all my sketches, and I made a mold out of clay of what I wanted the chair to look like, and I sent it to him, and so he sent me the design in 3D, and you know, long story short, the 3D printing company told me it was going to be like $30,000 at least to just
Right.
make a prototype. They were like, at least it can be more. So I was like, well, that was just a barrier. So it was like, how can I make it in a different medium? And that's where I decided to go with wood uh, to make the chair. And I it took some research, but I was able to find someone in my hometown that was willing and able to do it, hand carve it for me, and and that was how I did it. Took about
Right.
9 months. Um, yeah, about 9 months
Yeah.
since I woke up, uh,
Just with the
thinking
idea.
I wanted to
Yeah.
design
Woke
the
up
chair.
and wrote it down.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, I want to take it back actually to like talking about vision. And I think Jay said something interesting that just isn't said very often, and that vision being a hard skill. Most people think of like vision, we think of like the best designers that, oh, like that's just they just have the vision already, you know what I'm saying? So like they were just gifted, anointed with the vision. And I think, Hector, you said something important. I think it really is that like those people who are at that high level, who can create in different mediums, have just mentally gotten over, or really, I would say, become attuned with the true creator within, because the true creator that supplies the visions has no boundaries,
mm,
knows no limits. And
yeah,
so, like, when you then trust in that creator within, then it just becomes, like you said, all the technical things I need to do uh to bring out this design is just the technical thing. That's just learning the
yeah,
technical part.
yeah,
But it's really like trusting in that creator within that already has the vision for you.
yeah,
I think that's
and
important.
not giving up on the vision once it gets hard,
Facts.
because it will.
Right.
Like there was times where I felt like, damn, like this chair might not be made,
Right. Right.
but it's about like keeping at it and believing in the vision,
Right.
even if
It's the key
at
to
some
patience.
points you don't.
Right. Vision sustainability.
Yeah,
Vision
exactly.
sustainability. Facts.
No cap.
So, Hector, personally versus archive dreams, right? What is it that you want to achieve?
I well, there's a lot of things I want to achieve, but I want to you know, recently I went. Uh, the fashion industry is super uh, secretive about, their manufacturing.
That's a
Uh,
fact.
and I think that's the biggest barrier to entry to
Hmm.
the fashion industry. They No one will tell you um, where they make their stuff, especially if it's well made.
Mhm.
Um, and so, recently I I was traveling and I saw the Stella McCartney store, and I went in, and I was completely like dumbfounded, like how these products were made, because they looked brand new. They weren't like reworked products, um, but they they were all made with sustainable practices. Um,
Mhm.
so like Stella McCartney focuses a lot on sustainability, and I think that's great. I think she's making her difference, but I think what I want to achieve. I mean, we were at the store and they were telling us how they were even like experimenting with how to make stuff with mushrooms and stuff like that. It's
Right.
like, wow. But like those technologies are insane and they exist.
Right.
Um, I think what I want to accomplish is, you know, not only being able to like innovate new ways of like creating things with sustainable practices, but also be able to put that out there so I can inspire, um, and you know kind of help other designers take the same steps in the right direction, into more sustainable practices, uh, because I think that's where the real change is to
Needs
be
to
made in the
be,
world.
bro. I feel you
I
so much. Like matter of fact, since we align on this vision, we're gonna do it together. This is what I
Yeah,
think. This is what I think we need to do.
yeah. Talk to
we
me.
need we need to understand, because it's the vision. We just need to figure out the process in between. We
Exactly.
need
Yeah.
to we need to understand 3D printing. We need
Yeah.
to understand how 3D printing works. And then we need to make a 3D printer for textiles.
For textiles.
Yes,
Wow.
Mhm.
that's what we need to do. And then what we can do from there, right? Because we made it, we control this machine. We can mass produce this machine and give it to everyone and create a sustainable machine that everyone can use. You can kind of drop in, like make a computer with, maybe
Yeah.
we can make like a computer like mock-up software that goes with it, and you put whatever into this computer mock-up software. You choose out
Give
of
it
like
some
maybe a couple
fabric.
materials.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
what the print, like what it prints out of, and then you just hit go.
Yeah.
And we
Okay.
make a
Don't
3D
you
printer for
think?
textiles.
Well, don't you think that already exists? Okay, not in every textile type of stuff, but I'm thinking like, for
Oh,
example,
for sure.
knitwear.
Yeah.
Oh
No, it
yeah.
does
Oh
exist,
yeah.
bro. There
No,
was
it
actually
does.
a
We
client that reached
actually
out to us
we
from
almost
Different
have.
Consulting that
Right.
does that. They did cashmere, but
Yeah.
only
Yep.
cashmere. It was like limited, but they did do it. And I was like, wow, like this is
It was very
breakthrough.
well done.
And I
It
was
was
like, bro, they're just
no
selling
seam.
these knit sweaters for like $200. I was like, dog, y'all need to
Right.
sell that machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for real. If they sold the machine, it'd be off the charts. But I think, like you said, Hector, I think it's a cultural thing. Our generation's like, we come from YouTube. Like, bro, why wouldn't you send me the link? You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, oh no, we got the thing. Like, we're not gonna give it to y'all. Like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. No, because it's the barrier to entry, and
Exactly.
fashion is so competitive um, as an industry that it's like you can't give it out for free, you know. But
Exactly.
I think uh, like I understand Stella McCartney's point of view of like, okay, not wanting to share this, but I see like again an exponential change in uh, you know sustainable practices, and like if you're able to like give the information, this information, to all these designers.
Oh yeah. We
And
changed the game.
because even I know today, even if you want to make something sustainably, it's easier and it's cheaper to just not.
Right.
And it's because there's that ignorance, and there's that lack of information, and sharing this information.
Because the lack of sharing information is what prevents the scalability to drive down the cost. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because
That's
like,
exactly.
say we make this 3D printer for textiles and we mass produce the machine, like because we're able to mass produce the machine, now we're able to sell the machine at a lower price.
Yeah.
And then the designer that just started his new brand that wants to just like make the clothes and whatever, now he can come in, and that's like, all right, like I could afford AirPods for 150. You know what I'm saying? Like instead of like I used to have to
Get
fly
the
to
AirPods
Italy
Pro
and then like and drop 50 bands to get some samples.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that would definitely abolish that barrier to entry. Not straight abolish it, but like over time it would definitely abolish it and raise, I think, just like
Well, I
It'd be
think
huge
raise
for
the quality
everybody.
of the game. You know what I'm
It'd
It'd be
saying?
huge for everybody, yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, and what I want to do is, yeah, not necessarily like abolish this barrier to entry, but abolish the barrier to entry in sustainable practices, because I think that's where it's like heaviest on. I mean, I've noticed this firsthand. This is a gigantic problem trying to make this sweater out of recycled cashmere, and it's literally, you just have to buy the cashmere that's already recycled, like the manufacturers, and then just put it in the same machine. But there's I contacted manufacturers that wouldn't even do this. They would be like, no, we can do cashmere, we can't do recycle.
Right.
And so it's that, but on a global scale, like
To change their mindset and everything too, as well as having the physical means.
Yeah.
Facts. No, that's facts. Sustainability is a virtuous mission.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, if you like the 3D print idea, bro, like let's do it.
Yeah.
No, we gotta do. We don't often cook up ideas on the pod, but I'm liking
right. Live on the pod, right.
that would be crazy too. The machine is
it'd be insane.
Yeah.
It would be insane, especially if there was like Jay said, a state of the art like software system that allowed you to just like easily go in and be able to just like tweak the smallest parts of a garment, like to fit a certain way, like that.
If you could use different materials with it, because manufacturers, like they make their money because they buy this really expensive machine that makes one type of product, or like it works with one type of material, and they just have to mass produce this product now with this material.
Right.
But
Yeah, because I would think about it like this machine has like ink cartridges, you know what I mean? So we want to print in blue or we want to print in red. It's like we want it to be
Right.
cotton or do we want it to be like leather or do we want it to be, you could put anything in it.
Right. It just comes down to like how the machine robot is able, like if there's a
Is able to
problem with,
put it
like,
together.
grabbing the
Yeah.
material, right? Exactly, like be able to manipulate it without issue.
But we could for
But yeah,
sure, because this is the
we
thing.
could definitely do that.
If we take my God, if we take whoever we got at Google and at Apple and at Tesla and robotics, and we put them together with, you know what I'm saying, whoever we got at Dior, and you know what I mean, we can definitely make this type of thing happen today. It just has to be put
Right,
out there. So
just has to be aligned.
yeah,
Visions have to be aligned.
that's true.
somebody tell Bernard I don't know.
So we'll get LVMH email.
All right, so
I think Bernardo would try to capitalize off it as much as possible.
oh, he gonna sell that machine
course.
for 18,000% markup.
You
Don't
gonna
get it
buy the
twisted.
machine off of us for
Right,
whatever price
right.
you
You gonna
want.
buy the rights to the machine. Right.
Exactly. That's how you do it. And then LVMH.
All right, so last couple of questions, wrapping up a little bit.
For sure.
Thoughts on young creatives doing multiple things. Like we spoke on creating in different mediums, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on like young people that maybe are pursuing multiple skills or careers or passions at the same time, as opposed to maybe kind of the older generation where it was do this one thing for 60 years, master it. You know what I mean?
No, I think that's the future. I think if you're able to, the more you're able to master, the better. I think, there's young creatives out there like listening to this and want to have different passions in different routes. I say don't give up the one for the other. You know, sometimes it can obviously be hard because you see, more monetary value coming from one or the other, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be 50-50, but if you're able to like, keep all your passions and nurture them, so that you don't know what you're going to be able to accomplish in the future with all this knowledge together. So yeah, I think that's the future. I think it's with educating yourself and self-education, teaching yourself how to do these different things and not being scared of trying.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think there's just like a. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I think it almost is the key to value. Like the best thing that you could do for everyone else is be the best version of yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to be the highest level version of yourself is to be able to create in all the mediums, to have all the skills that you're meant to.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I also just think that there's like, not that there's an outdate that the concept of mastery is outdated. I just think that our generation is updating it with this form of like mastery, and that, not to say that the old concept like said that you can't do more than one thing, but I just feel like even reading like Robert Greene's book on mastery, like it just highly recommends that like you focus in on one thing. But I love the ambition of our generation that is like, I mean, we grew up on YouTube. It's like, you want to know it, like Google it. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like we're testing. I feel like we're testing it to be like, we're trying to go higher. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we want to break through that concept of like, I need to do this one thing from the age of 5 to be able, and I need to be a prodigy to be able to be renowned as this per se master of this art.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, it's a lie. It's a lie you're telling yourself. I mean, just prime example, look at Virgil. He studied architecture, and then he went on to design everything but buildings. Literally everything, like from sound to shoes to furniture to even planes. Like, what?
Facts. That's the same reason why I love like Ronnie Feig and Kith's work, because like he's doing a Porsche right now. Like he did a Porsche, he's doing a BMW right now, he's doing another BMW, like cars, clothes, Barbie, Knicks, like you name it. Like the creativity has no bounds.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. It's not a single, you know, you don't put yourself in the box.
I think the misconception with the one thing is that one thing is generally more vague than we make it out to be. And so like maybe I say like I want to be a photographer, right? But like what do I need to know to be a photographer? Like, what does that mean? Is so much. It's not one thing, because like I need to know how to take the pictures. I need to know how to edit the pictures. I need to know
how to work with people to take pictures, like work with a model.
I was gonna say,
you know what I'm saying? Like
one, work with the people, but I was gonna say I need to know how to have a company so that I can make money once I sell the photos.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, like
how to make a website.
And then that's almost considered like a separate skill. We would call that entrepreneurship, not photography.
Yeah.
But like you say that like my one thing is photography, like it's not necessary to like, I think, call it one thing. You know? We just need to do whatever needs to be done to get to that vision.
That's true. It's very true.
And like touching on that business point, I'm curious to ask about your experience with Archive Dreams and scaling the store. What on the back end of the business and the infrastructure and the company have you learned from your experience?
A lot. Everything I know, I learned it through doing. Yeah, I think it's really a mental barrier when you're like able to like just, if you're able to like start and be like, okay, I'm going and doing this business and putting everything into it. That's a mental switch right there, a mental barrier. And from there, it's just growth, like personal and business growth. Like whether you fall down, like and mess up, whether you lose money or make money, like it's all a learning experience. I mean, if for example with photography, like for the store, I had no experience with photography, and I had to teach myself how to use a camera and how to take pictures of product, because there's taking pictures and then there's taking pictures of product.
Completely different.
Yeah. And so literally, like, here's my setup. I'm like, just, that's one thing, but there's a lot of things. Like marketing, I've learned a lot. like you said, like with the with the example of the photographer, I think there's a lot of things that you learn that you can't put yourself in just the box.
There's
You
so
have to
many
learn a lot
different
about
skills. Yeah.
business, but a ton of skills.
Is there
through-
anything like in particular? I always think like the startup experience with like figuring out how to like, what do I need to be like a legal business? Is like again almost like that hidden fashion information, like why everybody can't just tell you that. But it's
Yeah,
like how do I make an LLC? How do
yeah,
I find an accountant? Like, how do I file business taxes? Like, what's S corp? How do all these people that like have companies not pay taxes? Like, what does that even mean? You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Like
Finding those
now,
loopholes. How do you do the
understanding the
same?
cash flow for your own business. Like,
Exactly.
when do I take the money out? Like, all of that. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of it. Yeah, I think it's you have to find how to.
you learn from
Like,
trial and error,
yeah,
but like,
yeah. You learn from trial
obviously, we also learn a whole lot from YouTube.
and error.
So I was gonna say, bro, like YouTube, like it's highly underrated, even amongst our generation. Like people, I feel like people still use YouTube as like some small like funny clips, or maybe I don't even know what people use, but they don't use it enough. Is all I
Just
do
for
know.
entertainment and not for
Right.
information.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true.
Like, did you ever find yourself on YouTube like, how do I, like, I don't know, like how what you have set up with Archive Dreams, but find
Yeah.
yourself on YouTube like, how do I make an LLC, or like,
Yeah.
what do I need to do to like be like a legal business, or like operate, or like sell overseas or whatever? Like, how do I
Oh yeah. No,
copyright my
I always
name?
find myself like Googling like taxes questions because I'm like, oh, do I have to?
Right.
You have to pay taxes like here, well,
Like, I
especially like,
swear I'm
with the
not trying to like avoid it. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. No,
like, what do I
especially
need
like
to do?
with the New York pop-up shop, I had no idea like the taxes are completely different than like here in Texas. And plus
Right,
I'm selling online here in Texas, so it's like
right.
completely different. So I was like freaking out like 1 week before Googling like how like what are the taxes rates, because it's like
Mhm.
one of the last things you think about. First
Right.
you think about, okay, where am I gonna um like do the pop-up shop? Like first I need to find the spot, how do I
Right.
how do I rent the spot? But like yeah, there's yeah, there's always like that uncertainty, like yeah, I'm not trying to avoid taxes, like but how much
Right.
should I charge, like where do I, yeah,
Like, what's the right way to do it? Because like
so
the right way to do taxes is to not pay taxes. You know what I'm saying? Like, the right way
That's the
though.
whole
Like,
name of the game, right? Right. The legal way to not pay taxes.
yeah.
YouTube has a whole lot of information for everybody that wants to get into that. Rule number one though is own something. We'll just leave it at that.
Okay. I'll say we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. I was gonna actually no, I need to say it. Rule number 2, listen to more than one source.
That too.
Please. Don't just take everything at face value. Look at 3 different videos that discuss the same topic and take out what you find to be the most true.
Yeah.
The information is for you, right? Like, school
Right.
gave us a terrible relationship with knowledge and information,
Sure.
because like we just went there and we're like, damn, like you gonna tell us all this shit for what? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
if we went there with the relationship of like,
memorizing.
what is it that you want to learn, and like what do you have a passion about, and
Right.
like
It's
we're
how to
gonna
learn.
make sure that whatever it is that you had that vision for, you get all the information about.
Yeah.
Then we have totally different like relationship with knowledge. We'd be so much
Oh,
more inclined to
society
ask
would be so
questions and
ahead
want to
right
learn.
now. If
Right.
that was the schooling system, society would be
Right. It's like,
So
it's just like the difference between like how to learn versus what to learn. Like
yeah,
we
Yeah.
usually just teach like this is what you need to know, and then like we all know like after this test I'm probably not going to use it.
no, yeah, no, but
Right.
I think most of that like education system is like training to be an employee, and
Of
Yeah.
course.
they kind of
But you don't even make a good employee that way, bro. And I'll say this
No,
because
you
we own
don't.
companies. We don't want to
Right.
hire nobody with that mindset.
yeah,
No, we don't.
Like
No,
we
those are
want to
trash
find
employees.
people. We want to find people that are able to be autonomous, that can have an idea, find the skills that they need to execute the idea, educate themselves on those things in the first place, like without you
yeah,
even having to do anything. Like that's their own prerogative. Those are the
yeah,
types of people that we want to find and
yeah,
hire as like businesses, as leaders and whatever. So like
yeah,
school is just like not helping.
yeah,
It's not helping the leaders, it's not helping the employees, it's not, you know what I'm saying? It's tough.
Facts.
yeah.
We'll fix that too after we make the 3D printer.
Right. Sustainability first. Sustainability first.
All right, so last question. What does different mean to you?
Different. Um, like your brand or just like the word to me?
Give me both, but just start with the word different.
Yeah. Um, first of all, can I say I love how you put the Y and different because you spell different differently.
No,
Right.
thank you.
Appreciate
But
it.
yeah, to me, it means like, you know, unique. I don't know, like stand out. Um, not not in the crowd. You're yeah, stand out. Um, there's there's always, you know, that person in the crowd that stands out, and it's like it's the person that's different. Um, that's what it means to me.
Thanks. Do you have thoughts on what it means as like the name of the company?
Yeah. Um, I think it it's uh it's a it's a good like word because I mean after like having this conversation with you, it's like a whole like lifestyle. Like you think differently. You like um again you want to create in different mediums that's like different from the status quo even.
Right.
I I do think yeah um it's it's very cohesive with the brand.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll say
Sure, bro.
like our goal of different is to be lead, to be formlessness, and like just like to capture what is the creating in all mediums.
Hmm.
Why is that good
Yeah.
to be able to do that?
Yeah.
And like whatever that is, that's different,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And like we want to embrace that because you being different from me and you not trying to be anything like me is what made you make Archive Dreams, and fucking Ronnie Feek follows you and Pusha T gonna wear your shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you want to be different from
Yeah.
everybody, want to be different from like what you've seen. And that's not saying that it takes away from past experiences and everything else. You still have like references, you still love Margella, you know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
you finding your own path is what's important. Us all being individuals and maximizing ourselves is the goal.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's gonna wrap up all the questions. Last thing last is Hector. Tell them where they can find you. All shout outs, links. Shout yourself out.
Okay. Um, Well, first of all, if you don't follow Archive Dreams on Instagram, go ahead and do that. Um, there's also Archive Dreams store where I post, the products that I sell, and Archive Dreams Studio is the products I design. Um, you can also find me on YouTube. You just look up Archive Dreams, check out my pop up shop video. Um, I just posted.
It was a vibe in Chelsea. Just you guys should check that.
It was same street as the Comme des Garçons
It
store.
was right next to Comme des Garçons, let alone the same street. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a vibe.
But yeah, I think that's it.
All right, man. I really appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for having
Talked
me.
about a whole lot of gems.
Yeah, indeed.
Until next time.
It was a pleasure.
To sustainability.